the Queen of Sheba. Solomon, it must be remembered, ruled not only over men, but also over the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, demons, spirits, and the specters of the night. He knew the language of all of them, and they understood his language. When Solomon was of good cheer, by reason of wine, he summoned beasts of the field, birds of the air, the creeping reptiles, the shades, the specters, and the ghosts, all to perform their dances before the kings, his neighbors, whom he invited to witness his power and greatness. The king's scribes called the animals and their spirits by name, one by one, and they all assembled of their own accord, without fetters or bonds, or any human hand controlling them. On one occasion the hoopoe was missing from the birds. He could not be found anywhere. The king, full of anger, ordered him to be produced and chastised for his tardiness. The hoopoe appeared and said, "O Lord of the world, incline your ear and hear my words. 3 months have gone by since I began to think this matter over and decide on a course of action. I have had no food or water, in order to fly about the whole world and see whether there is a domain anywhere which is not subject to my lord, the king. And I found a city, the city of Ketor, in the east. There is so much gold there, dust is more valuable, and silver is like the mud of the streets. Its trees are from the beginning of all time, and they are nourished by water that flows from the Garden of Eden. The city is crowded with people. On their heads they wear garlands made in paradise. They do not know how to fight, nor how to shoot with bow and arrow. Their ruler is a woman. She is called the Queen of Sheba. If now it pleases you, Lord and King, I will strengthen myself like a hero, and journey to the city of Ketor in the land of Sheba. Its kings I will bind with chains, and its rulers with iron bands, and then bring them all before you, my lord the king." The hoopoe's speech pleased the king. The clerks of his land were summoned, and they wrote a letter and bound it to the hoopoe's wing. The bird rose skyward, uttered his cry, and flew away, followed by all the other birds. So they came to Ketor in the land of Sheba. It was morning, and the queen had gone to worship the sun. Suddenly the birds darkened the light of the sun. The queen raised her hand, tore her garment in fright, and was sorely astonished. Then the hoopoe alighted near her. Seeing that a letter was tied to his wing, she loosed it and read it. And the letter read, "From me, King Solomon, peace be with you, peace with the nobles of your realm. Understand that God has appointed me king over the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, the demons, the spirits, and the specters. All kings of the east and the west come to bring me greetings. If you will come and salute me, I will show you great honor, more than any of the kings that attend me. But if you will not pay homage to me, I will send out kings, legions, and riders against you." You may be asking yourself, who are these kings, legions, and riders of King Solomon? The beasts of the fields are my kings, the birds my riders, and the demons, spirits, and shades of the night my legions. The demons will throttle you in your beds, and the beasts will slay you in the field, while the birds will consume your flesh. When the Queen of Sheba read the contents of the letter, she again tore her garment and sent word to her elders and her princes. "Do you know what Solomon has written me?" They answered, "We know nothing of King Solomon, and his dominion we regard as nothing." But their words did not reassure the queen. She assembled all her ships of the sea, and loaded them with the finest kinds of wood, and with pearls and precious stones. Together with these, she sent Solomon 6,000 youths and maidens, born in the same year, in the same month, on the same day, in the same hour, all of equal stature and size, all clothed in purple garments. They took a letter to King Solomon as follows: "From the city of Ketor to the land of Israel is a journey of 7 years. As it is your wish and request, I will visit you. I will hurry and be in Jerusalem at the end of 3 years." When the time of her arrival drew near, Solomon sent Benaniah, the son of Jehoiada, to meet her. Benaniah was like the flush in the eastern sky at the break of day, like the evening star that outshines all other stars, and like the lily that grows by the brooks of water. When the queen caught sight of him, she descended from her chariot to do him honor. Benaiah asked why she had left her chariot. "Are you not King Solomon?" she questioned in turn. Benaiah replied, "No, I am only one of his servants that stands in his presence." Then the queen turned to her nobles and said, "If you have not beheld the lion, at least you have seen his lair, and if you have not beheld King Solomon, at least you have seen the beauty of him that stands in his presence." Benaiah conducted the queen to Solomon, who had gone to sit in a house of glass to receive her. The queen was deceived by an illusion. She thought the king was sitting in water, and as she stepped across to meet him, she raised her garment to keep it dry. On her bared feet, the king noticed hair, and he said to her, "Your beauty is like the beauty of a woman, but your hair is masculine. Hair is an ornament to a man, but it disfigures a woman." Then the queen began and said, "I have heard of you and your wisdom. If I inquire concerning a matter, will you answer me?" He replied, "The Lord gives wisdom, and out of his mouth comes knowledge and understanding." Then she began her riddles. 7 there are that issue, and 9 that enter. 2 yield the drink, and 1 drinks. He said to her, 7 are the days of a woman's defilement, and 9 the months of pregnancy. 2 are the breasts that yield the drink, and 1 the child that drinks it. She said to him, "You are wise." She then placed a number of males and females of the same stature and garb before him, and said, "Distinguish between them." Solomon made a sign to his eunuchs, who brought him a quantity of nuts and roasted ears of corn. The males, who were not bashful, seized them with bare hands. The females took them, putting forth their gloved hands from beneath their garments. Then he said, "Those are the males, these are the females." She then brought a number of men to him, some circumcised and others uncircumcised, and asked him to distinguish between them. He immediately made a sign to the high priest, who opened the Ark of the Covenant. Then those who were circumcised bowed their bodies down half their height, while their countenances were filled with the radiance of the Shekinah. The uncircumcised fell prone on their faces. "Those," he said, "are circumcised, these uncircumcised." "You are wise indeed," she exclaimed. "Who is he that was never born, nor has died?" "It is the Lord of the world. Blessed be he." "What land is that which has only seen the sun once?" "The bed of the Red Sea, on the day when it was divided." "The dead lived, and the grave moved. Then the dead prayed. What is that?" "The dead that lived and prayed, Jonah, and the fish, the moving grave." She went on to ask a total of 22 riddles, all of which Solomon answered. Solomon, master of the demons. Never has there lived a man privileged like Solomon, who could make the demons amenable to his will. God endowed him with the ability to turn the vicious power of demons into a power working to the advantage of men. He invented formulas of incantation by which diseases were alleviated, and others by which demons were exorcised so that they were banished forever. As his personal attendants, he had spirits and demons who he could send hither and thither in an instant. He could grow tropical plants in Palestine, because his ministering spirits secured him water from India. As the spirits were subservient to him, so also the animals. He had an eagle on whose back he was transported to the desert and back in 1 day, to build the city called Tadmor in the Bible. This city must not be confused with the later Syrian city of Palmyra, also called Tadmor. It was situated near the mountains of darkness, the trysting place of the spirits and demons. There the eagle would carry Solomon in the twinkling of an eye, and Solomon would drop a paper inscribed with a verse down to the spirits, to ward off evil from himself. Then the eagle would reconnoiter the mountains of darkness until he spied out the spot in which the fallen angels Azza and Azael lie chained with iron fetters, a spot which no one, not even a bird, may visit. When the angel found the place, he would take Solomon under his left wing and fly to the two angels. Through the power of the ring having the holy name engraved on it, which Solomon put into the eagle's mouth, Azza and Azael were forced to reveal the heavenly mysteries to the king. The demons were of great service to Solomon during the erection of the temple. It came about in this way. When Solomon began building the temple, it once happened that a malicious spirit snatched away the money and food of one of the king's favorite pages. This occurred several times, and Solomon was not able to lay hold on the malefactor. Then the king besought God fervently to deliver the wicked spirit into his hands. His prayer was granted. The archangel Michael appeared to him and gave him a small ring having a seal consisting of an engraved stone, and he said to him, "Solomon, son of David, take the gift which the Lord God has sent to you. With it you will lock up all the demons of the earth, male and female, and with their help you will build up Jerusalem. But you must wear this seal of God, and this engraving of the seal of the ring sent to you as a pentalpha." Armed with it, Solomon called up all the demons before him, and asked each in turn his or her name, as well as the name of the star or constellation or zodiac sign of the particular angel. One after another the spirits were vanquished and compelled by Solomon to aid in the construction of the temple. Ornias, the vampire spirit who had maltreated Solomon's servant, was the first demon to appear, and he was set to the task of cutting stones near the temple. Then Solomon told Ornias to come, and he gave him the seal, saying, "Away with you, and bring me the prince of all the demons." Ornias took the finger ring and went to Beelzebul, who has kingship over the demons. He said to him, "Come, Solomon calls you." But Beelzebul said, "Tell me, who is this Solomon who you speak of?" Then Ornias threw the ring at the chest of Beelzebul, saying, "Solomon, the king, calls you." But Beelzebul cried aloud with a mighty voice, and shot out a great burning flame of fire. Then he arose and followed Ornias and came to Solomon. Brought before the king, he promised to bring him all the unclean spirits. Beelzebul proceeded to do so, beginning with Onoskelis, who had a very pretty shape and the skin of a fair-hued woman, and was followed by Asmodeus, both giving an account of themselves. Beelzebul then reappeared on the scene, and in his conversation with Solomon declared that he alone survived of all the angels who had come down from heaven. He reigned over all who were in Tararis, and had a child in the Red Sea, who on occasion comes up to Beelzebul and revealed to him what he has done. Next, the demon of the ashes, Tephros, appeared, and after him a group of 7 female spirits, who declared themselves to be of the 36 elements of the darkness. Solomon had them dig the foundation of the temple, for the length of it was 250 cubits, and he ordered them to be industrious, and with one united murmur of protest they began to perform the task. Then Solomon told another demon to come before him. A demon, having all the limbs of a man but without a head, was brought to him. The demon said to Solomon, "I am called Envy, for I delight to devour heads, wanting to secure a head for myself, but I do not eat enough, and I am anxious to have a head such as yours." A hound-like spirit, whose name was Rabdos, followed, and he revealed to Solomon a green stone useful for the adornment of the temple. A number of other male and female demons appeared, among them the 36 world rulers of the darkness, whom Solomon commanded to fetch water for the temple. Some of these demons he condemned to do the heavy work on the construction of the temple, others he shut up in prison, and others he ordered to wrestle with fire in the making of gold and silver. After Solomon, with the help of the demons, had completed the temple, the rulers, among them the Queen of Sheba, who was a sorceress, came from far and near to admire the magnificence and art of the building, and no less the wisdom of its builder. One day an old man appeared before Solomon to complain about his son, who he accused of having been so impious as to raise his hand against his father and give him a blow. The young man denied the charge, but his father insisted that his life had been held forfeit. Suddenly Solomon heard loud laughter. It was the demon Ornias who was guilty of the disrespectful behavior. Rebuked by Solomon, the demon said, "I pray you, O king, it was not because of you I laughed, but because of this ill-starred old man and his wretched son. For after 3 days his son will die, yet now the old man wants to do away with him." Solomon delayed his verdict for several days, and when after 5 days he summoned the old father, it appeared that Ornias had spoken the truth. The son was dead. Some time later, Solomon received a letter from Adares, the king of Arabia. He begged the Jewish king to deliver his hand from an evil spirit, who was doing great mischief, and could not be caught and made harmless because he appeared in the form of wind. Solomon gave his magic ring and a leather bottle to one of his slaves and sent him to Arabia. The messenger succeeded in confining the spirit in the bottle. A few days later, when Solomon entered the temple, he was not a little astonished to see a bottle walk toward him and bow down reverently. It was the bottle in which the spirit was shut up. This same spirit once did Solomon a great service. Assisted by demons, he raised a gigantic stone out of the Red Sea. Neither human beings nor demons could move it, but he carried it to the temple, where it was used as a cornerstone. Through his own fault, Solomon forfeited the power to perform miraculous deeds. He fell in love with the Jebusite woman, Sonmonides. The priests of Moloch and Rephan, the false gods she worshipped, advised her to reject Solomon unless he paid homage to them. At first Solomon was firm, but when the woman told him to take 5 locusts and crush them in his hands in the name of Moloch, he obeyed her. At once he was bereft of the divine spirit, of his strength, and of his wisdom, and he sank so low that to please his beloved he built temples to Baal and Rephan. The building of the temple. Among the great achievements of Solomon, first place must be assigned to the superb temple he built. He was long in doubt as to where he was to build it. Then a heavenly voice directed him to Mount Zion at night, to a field owned jointly by 2 brothers. One of the brothers was a bachelor and poor. The other was blessed both with wealth and a large family of children. It was harvesting time. Under cover of night, the poor brother kept adding to the other's heap of grain, for although he was poor, he thought his brother needed more on account of his large family. The rich brother, in the same way, added to the poor brother's heap, thinking that though he had a family to support, the other was without means. This field, Solomon concluded, which had called forth so remarkable a manifestation of brotherly love, was the best site for the temple, and he bought it. Every detail of the equipment and ornamentation of the temple testifies to Solomon's rare wisdom. Next to the required furniture, he planted golden trees, which bore fruit all the time the building stood. When the enemy entered the temple, the fruit dropped from the trees, but they will bring forth blossoms again when it is rebuilt in the days of the Messiah. Solomon was so assiduous that the erection of the temple took 7 years, about half the time of the erection of the king's palace, in spite of the greater magnificence of the sanctuary. In this respect he was the superior of his father David, who first built a house for himself and then gave thought to a house for God. Indeed, it was Solomon's meritorious work in connection with the temple that saved him from being reckoned by the sages as one of the impious kings, among whom his later actions might have properly put him. According to the measure of zeal displayed by Solomon was the help and favor shown him by God. During the 7 years it took to build the temple, not a single workman died, nor even did a single one fall sick. And as the workmen were sound and robust from first to last, so the perfection of their tools remained unimpaired until the building stood complete. Thus the work suffered no sort of interruption. After the dedication of the temple, however, the workmen died off, lest they build similar structures for the heathen and their gods. Their wages are to be received from God in the world to come. and the master workman, Hiram, was rewarded by being permitted to reach paradise alive. The temple was finished in the month of Bul, now called Marheshwan, but it stood closed for nearly a whole year, because it was the will of God that the dedication take place in the month of Abraham's birth. Meanwhile, the enemies of Solomon rejoiced maliciously. Was it not the son of Bathsheba, they said, who built the temple? How then could God permit his Shekinah to rest on it? When the consecration of the house took place, and the fire came down from heaven, they recognized their mistake. The importance of the temple appeared at once, for the torrential rains, which annually since the deluge had fallen for 40 days, beginning with the month of Marheshwan, for the first time failed to come, and from that day forward appeared no more. The joy of the people over the sanctuary was so great that they held the consecration ceremonies on the Day of Atonement. It contributed much to their ease of mind when a heavenly voice was heard to proclaim, "You all will have a share in the world to come." The great house of prayer reflected honor not only on Solomon and the people, but also on King David. The following incident proves it. When the ark was about to be brought into the Holy of Holies, the door of the sacred chamber locked itself, and it was impossible to open it. Solomon prayed fervently to God, but his entreaties had no effect until he pronounced the words, "Remember the good deeds of David, your servant." Then the Holy of Holies opened itself, and the enemies of David had to admit that God had wholly forgiven his sin. A wish cherished by David was fulfilled in the execution of the temple. He did not like the idea of having the gold, which he had taken as booty from the heathen places of worship during his campaigns, used for the sanctuary at Jerusalem, because he feared that the heathen would boast at the destruction of the temple that their gods were courageous and were taking revenge by wrecking the house of the Israelite God. Fortunately, Solomon was so rich that there was no need to resort to the gold inherited from his father, and so David's wish was fulfilled. The throne of Solomon. Next to the temple in its magnificence is the throne of Solomon, that perpetuates the name and fame of the wise king. None before him and none after him could produce a like work of art, and when the kings, his vassals, saw the magnificence of the throne, they fell down and praised God. The throne was covered with fine gold from Ophir, studded with beryls, inlaid with marble, and jeweled with emeralds, rubies, pearls, and all manner of gems. On each of its 6 steps were 2 golden lions and 2 golden eagles, a lion and an eagle to the left, and a lion and an eagle to the right, the pairs standing face to face, so that the right paw of the lion was opposite the left wing of the eagle, and the left paw opposite to the right wing. The royal seat was at the top, which was round. On the first step leading to the seat crouched an ox, and opposite him a lion, and on the second a wolf and a lamb, on the third a leopard and a goat, on the fourth perched an eagle and a peacock, on the fifth a falcon and a rooster, and on the 6th a hawk and a sparrow, all made of gold. At the very top rested a dove, her claws set on a hawk, to betoken that the time would come when all peoples and nations will be delivered into the hands of Israel. Over the seat hung a gold candlestick, with gold lamps, pomegranates, snuff dishes, censers, chains, and lilies. 7 branches extended from each side. On the arms to the right were the images of the 7 patriarchs, Adam, Noah, Shem, Job, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. On the arms to the left, the images of the 7 pious men of the world, Kohas, Amram, Moses, Aaron, Eldad, Medad, and the prophet Hur. Attached to the top candlestick was a golden bowl filled with the purest olive oil, and below a gold basin, also filled with the purest olive oil, for the candlestick over the throne. The basin bore the image of the high priest Eli. Those of his sons Hophni and Phinehas were on the 2 faucets protruding from the basin, and those of Nadab and Abihu on the tubes connecting the faucets with the basin. On the upper part of the throne stood 70 golden chairs for the members of the Sanhedrin, and 2 more for the high priest and his vicar. When the high priest came to do homage to the king, the members of the Sanhedrin also appeared to judge the people, and they took their seats to the right and to the left of the king. At the approach of the witnesses, the machinery of the throne rumbled, the wheels turned, the ox lowed, the lion roared, the wolf howled, the lamb bleated, the leopard growled, the goat cried, the falcon screamed, the peacock gobbled, the rooster crowed, the hawk screeched, and the sparrow chirped, all to terrify the witnesses and keep them from giving false testimonies. When Solomon set foot on the first step to ascend his throne, its machinery was put into motion. The golden ox arose and led him to the second step, and there passed him over to the care of the next beast, and so was conducted from step to step up to the 6th, where the eagles received him and placed him on his seat. As soon as he was seated, a great eagle set the royal crown on his head. Then a huge snake rolled itself up around the machinery, forcing the lions and eagles upward until they encircled the head of the king. A golden dove flew down from a pillar, took the sacred scroll out of a casket, and gave it to the king, so that he might obey the injunction of the Scriptures to have the law with him and read it all the days of his life. Above the throne, 24 vines interlaced, forming a shady arbor over the head of the king, and sweet aromatic perfumes exhaled from the 2 golden lions. It was the task of 7 heralds to keep Solomon reminded of his duties as king and judge. The first one of the heralds approached him when he set foot on the first step of the throne, and began to recite the law for kings. He will not multiply wives to himself. At the second step, the second herald reminded him, he will not multiply horses to himself. At the third, the next said, neither will he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. At the fourth step, you will not injure judgment. At the fifth, you will not temper the judgment of high personages. And at the 6th, neither will you take a gift. Finally, when he was about to seat himself on the throne, the 7th herald cried out, know before who you stand, the Most High. The throne did not remain long in the possession of the Israelites. During the life of Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, it was carried to Egypt. Shishak, the father-in-law of Solomon, appropriated it as an indemnity for claims which he urged against the Jewish state on behalf of his widowed daughter. When Sennacherib conquered Egypt, he carried the throne away with him, but on his homeward march, during the overthrow of his army before the gates of Jerusalem, he had to part with it to Hezekiah. Now it remained in Palestine until the time of Jehoash, when it was once more carried to Egypt by Pharaoh Necho. His possession of the throne brought him little joy. Unacquainted with its wonderful mechanism, he was injured in the side by one of the lions the first time he attempted to mount it, and forever after he limped, wherefore he was given the nickname Necho, the hobbler. Nebuchadnezzar was the next possessor of the throne. It fell to his lot at the conquest of Egypt, but when he attempted to use it in Babylonia, he fared no better than his predecessor. The lion, standing near the throne, gave him so severe a blow that he never again dared ascend it. Through Darius the throne reached Elam, but, knowing what its other owners had suffered, he did not venture to seat himself on it, and his example was imitated by Ahasuerus. The latter tried to have his engineers fashion him a wondrous work like it, but of course they failed. The Median rulers parted with the throne to the Greek monarchs, and finally it was carried to Rome. Next, the Hippodrome.